and welcome to another episode of Schiffbauer Rocks. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a little different today, but nothing not normal. We're doing a virtual podcast with a colleague of mine out on the West Coast, Chris Caldwell, founder and CEO of Sell As You Are. So welcome, man. I'm excited to have you on here today.
Yeah, thanks, Paul. It's good to be on here with you.
Uh-huh. So I know we initially got connected a while back. It was just happened to be part of a Insight Leadership Group.
Yeah.
You're pinging in virtually. I was down in Towson, Maryland. I'm like, let me just connect with this guy. And we recently have been in touch. I posed a question to you. It's like, why not do a podcast?
Yeah. Why not? Why not?
So you have Sell in your business's name, but I want to get back to really where it all started. How do you get into sales, man?
Yeah. So I started out as a teacher actually at college, and I taught as a high school teacher for 10 years. And while I did that, I had a couple of small businesses on the side. I was always pretty entrepreneurial. I love the idea of just like hustling. So, some of these businesses are pretty wild. I guess maybe stories for another day, but one was like, I figured out the algorithm in a penny auction website. And,
What?
and I was reselling like the iPads and the Garmin's and all that. And I had like 11 different accounts because you can only win so many things per month per account. So I was like opening up in my friends' names and all this. It was pretty wild. But I've just always really liked business. Always really liked selling. I liked the idea of hustling, and I hustled as a teacher for sure. And everybody always told me I should be in sales. I had a couple uncles who ran sales departments for own businesses, and they'd always joke that, Chris, when this whole history teacher thing has run its course, like you just let me know and I'll put you on my sales team. And so when I decided to leave teaching and go into the business world, I knew I wanted to go into sales. Or at least I thought I did. And so I ended up getting a job at a sales training company, Sandler Training, one of the offices in Baltimore with Chris McDonald, who Paul.
Yeah, saw him twice this week at the time of this recording.
I mean, there are few people in the world who I have as much personal and professional admiration for as Chris. He's just a really, really great human being.
That's a hell of a testimony.
Yeah, he really is, and he means a lot to me, whether he knows it or not. But he took a real chance on me because I had nothing on my CV except teaching history. And so he hired me into Sandler, and I sold for Sandler. And that's what I did the first however long. I was just doing the outbound, selling people into it, into the train, and then learning as much as I could, from guys like Chris, from my mentor, Rush Burkhart, who still, works in capacity here at Sell As You Are on our strategic consulting for our corporate clients. And I loved it, man. I fell in love with sales. I fell in love with sales process, sales training, sales coaching. I just fell in love with it. And so I left Sandler to then run a team at another Baltimore-based business, PSA, up in Hunt Valley. And so I worked there running a sales team. And I started putting everything I learned into action, seeing like, okay, which of this stuff I've been telling people to do stuff, like what actually works and what doesn't work. And I found that most of the stuff I had been training people and telling people to do was pretty great and worked.
That's good.
Some of the stuff that for whatever reason, whether it was the demographic, whether it was the fact that it was in the 2020s and things maybe were obsolete that I had been telling people to do, some of it didn't work so well. And what I found is I really began to hone in on what felt resonant with me, what I really believed in when it came to sales process, when it came to prospecting, when it came to relating to people, psychology, communication, spirituality, all of that stuff. And I began to just sort of develop my own vision for things. And so 3 years ago, right around when we met, I think it was like right when we met, three years ago, a little over 3 years ago, is when I went out on my own and launched my own business.
Yeah, which is crazy to think.
As You Are. I know. And it's been quite a ride.
So I'm going to walk you back for one question in particular. So thank you for the synopsis, but to me, it's really interesting when someone who's an employee, which you were as a teacher,
Yep.
leaves and takes the essentially like a change of career. And then
Yes.
eventually, you jumped in and become an entrepreneur in your own right at this point.
Yep.
I got to ask though, what was within you where going from teaching to sales, like a 180, what caused that shift?
Yeah. I think it was, interestingly enough, Paul, I think it was always in me.
Okay.
And that's what caused the shift is that I taught because I love to influence and impact people.
Hmm.
And teaching seemed like the most obvious way to do that when I was in college trying to pick a major. Um, and on top of that, I really adore children. I really love children. And I've always loved kids. I've always had a soft spot for kids. And I love like young adults, especially adolescents. Like I really like working with them. And so I was at a school in Baltimore, Loyola Blakefield, and it's an all boys high school. And so it was perfect. I got to influence young men. I got to help them. I got to show up for them and build relationships with them. And I always liked history. My dad was a history major. My grandfather was a history major. I always liked history. So it's like, man, like what an amazing opportunity. Um, and so I think really more than anything, I don't think I was ever not an entrepreneur or entrepreneurial or had the visions that I have now. I think that
It was
I
always
was
there.
yeah, it was always there. It just took me a while to see it. And to be honest with you, I had a lot of self-limiting beliefs around money, around my own competence, around whether or not I could do it, around what I would do. I was a history and education major, so I had no business knowledge. I had no business experience outside things I had just done on my own LLCs and how I hustled, like side hustled. So there's a lot there. We could probably talk all day about that because I've examined a lot of it, but I think it was always in me.
Hmm.
And I just needed to really tune in. I say the soul whispers and the ego screams. And
I
so I
like
think I
that.
just need to pay a bit more attention to the whispers I was hearing. And eventually the whispers got loud enough to the point where I had to take some type of action.
Gotcha. And hey, that leads me to a question I have for you. It's just something you mentioned just kind of as we were talking, getting this process together about limiting yourself to being just an expert and how it could hinder, the sales and the sales process. Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, sure. So I think that, you work with a lot of small and medium-sized businesses, and
Correct.
that we met in like a small, medium-sized business leaders group. And so, one of the things I was thinking about for this episode and for your audience is that a lot of times when small business owners adopt the role of selling, or they hire maybe an employee or a small team to do the selling, the thought is that I'm going to show up, I'm going to be an expert, and through my expertise, people are just going to want to buy stuff from me. Right? It's like what someone in your shoes would feel about like marketing. Well, you know what? I just need to show up and talk to Mr. and Miss Prospect. And I just need to show them how much I know about marketing, how much of
Yeah.
an expert I am about marketing.
It's the
And
connect.
eventually they're going to be like, whoa, where's
Nah,
Paul been all our
that's
life?
the exact opposite
Yeah, right. But it
experience.
is like sales truly is the exact opposite. And the moment you hang up your shingle, and you start your own business, you have to openly recognize that people don't care more about your expertise. Like they really don't. They care about your expertise if your expertise will specifically solve a problem they personally are experiencing. Outside that, they don't care.
I completely agree with you on that notion, Chris. And me from just a sales and account and management side, I've noticed with prospects and clients long term, it's the relationship aspect and
Yeah.
listening to them, treating, even if I have expertise, my team and myself, and we have the experience, you got to look at it like a blank space. Shout out Taylor Swift. It's just, you can't diagnose every client or prospect the same way. That's where it gets too jaded and you have that like problems. I feel like being the expert, even if
Yeah.
you are one of your own right. It's just like you said, like, oh, I know everything about marketing or sales. They're going to buy from me. No, it's just like got your blinders up all of a sudden. It's you went from amateur and it's almost you're kind of back there in a way if you think you know it all.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, with that being said, how do you balance it? Like through all these experiences you've had going from sailor, going to PSA, and then now
Yep.
really branching off on your own.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure there's been periods where you're like, I need to think about this differently in terms of how I even approach business, not just for my clients, but for myself.
Sure. Yeah. I think that, that's something I still work on and I still struggle with, it's like, your work is my work, like I'm still working on this stuff, but I think for me more than anything, it's just keeping the main thing, the main thing.
I love
And
that.
the main,
That's what I
and the main,
say.
yeah. And the main thing is I have a solution to a problem. And I really invest a lot of time, energy, and effort to make sure the solution is really damn as good as it can possibly be. Right. I'm obsessed at being the best I can be. Just like I was when I was a history teacher. I was obsessed about knowing everything I could know to help the kids. And now I'm obsessed about knowing as much as I can know about sales and about business and about sales process and about myself. Because the more I know about myself, the more I can understand others, right? Because we're all pretty much the same, dealing with the same neuroses. They just manifest a little differently.
I tell people,
So,
Chris, we're all living life for the first time.
yeah, I know. We really are, right? We really are. And it's like, it's almost like, it's interesting, Paul, because we're all living life for the first time in some ways. And then in some ways, we're all living life for the millionth time because we'll get that aha moment. And I would have aha moments, especially when I coached. And usually I would, I would like to think of it like the aha moment is not learning something new. The aha moment resonates so deeply because it's a realization that you're remembering something you already knew.
Yeah, which is
Right?
great. I've had periods throughout my life, seasons of my life where, wait, why am I start doing it this way or living this way when
Yeah.
living and thinking this way back served me better?
Yes, exactly. Right. It's a remembering, it's a deeper remembering. So if I keep the main thing for me, and the main thing is I have a solution to a problem and I work and obsess over making that solution as effective as it can be. Ipso facto, my day to day should be working to find out whether or not there are people out there who have the problem I can solve.
That
And, you know,
leads right into what I was about to ask. With sell as you are in your current business, what problem do you typically tackle for folks?
yeah.
Who's that audience for Chris Caldwell nowadays?
Sure. So it could look in just from like a direct ICP, worksheet. It could look different on paper,
Yeah.
right? Because we help the business with a sales org of 50 people as soon as we can help the individual solopreneur or a small business owner, right? Who does like a majority, if not all, is selling like yourself. And we have different ways and different programs that we can help them with. So when it comes to like the on paper details, that can be different. But for the most part, what we help is we do everything we can to really combine what I think are the two core energies that we all have, right? And we all have this like feminine and this masculine energy, right? And that shows up and manifests itself in all of our relationships and in our professional life. And that feminine energy is an energy of uniqueness, of creativity, of self-reflection, right? Of vulnerability, of authenticity, of connection, right? That's that like feminine energy we all have. We all have it, right? We all have it, man or woman. We all have
we can't
it.
deny it.
Yeah, we can't deny it. So it's like, okay, the people we help people raise their conscious awareness around how are you showing up? What are the stories you have in your head? What are the programs you have in your head that telling you to show up this way? What are you afraid of? How
That
can
is what are you afraid of is
oh yeah.
profound, Chris.
Yeah, I mean that's all we focus on. It's just fear and courage.
I
Fear and
may
courage.
have to like license or pilfer that question from you if you don't mind.
Yeah, take it.
That is powerful.
It's all what are you afraid of? Because what we do is we show up in a certain way to avoid dealing with situations that scare us. So what I found when I was going through my own journey, because when I was at Sandler, like one thing I didn't share at the beginning is like my hand was shaking when I had to make the cold calls. Like
Oh,
I'm someone
thank you
who
for
had
sharing
done
that. That's great.
I'd done improv comedy, stand-up comedy. I had done theater I got a scholarship to college for theater, right? So like I had taught in front of a room for 10 years.
Yeah.
It's
But
like
you couldn't pick
I
up the
could
phone.
talk paint off a wall. Like,
Yeah.
but if it came to picking up the phone, my hand was shaking. And I developed, I mean, I started drinking too much. Like it was really overwhelming to me because what was coming up is all these fears I had were coming right up to the surface because I couldn't run from them anymore. I couldn't just do what I was good at and go and teach, right? And just be in my like comfort zone. I was outside my comfort zone all day, every day. And if I wasn't on an island, right, I have my colleagues and my team, but I felt like I was really alone. And that made me even more scared. And so what we do is we have these ideas, we call them like the fail somebodies. We have these ideas of like the type of salesperson you should be. And that's based off of how you bought and sold things throughout your life. Right. And so you had good experiences and bad experiences. And of course, a ton of it is based of course, what your parents taught you, because our ego is
Yep.
almost wholly constructed by our parents' instruction and their projection of their own ego. And so you take dad's projection of his ego, mom's projection of her ego, and then it creates my ego, right? And so I stepped into the role, but I had this idea of what a salesperson should be and what a salesperson shouldn't be and what would make people uncomfortable. And I had a very high need for approval. And so I created this in my mind subconsciously, this sales somebody, this version of me
That wasn't Chris Caldwell.
that wasn't Chris Caldwell. That didn't mean that I didn't have aspects of my personality, right? And of course, my dashing good looks, but it wasn't me. It
I
wasn't,
like that. That was good.
yeah. It wasn't authentically me. It
Mhm.
wasn't really me. It was a watered down version of me, a me that was falling prey to my fears and actually manipulating and like changing who I was to show up in a way that my fears weren't triggered. So there was no courage. There was no boldness. There was no, in moments of truth, there was no truth. And it was like Michael Singer likens it to, we walk around like we have like something sharp sticking out of our arm, right? And it causes a little bit of dull pain all day, every day.
Yeah.
And instead of just sucking it up and pulling it out, what we do is we actually create an entire life in which we can operate without anyone bumping up against it. And so we may walk a different way. We may engage with human beings a different way. It's like we do everything we can to avoid someone bumping up against that thing, as opposed to just looking at why the heck it's there and figuring out how to pull it out. And so that began really my deep inner work and my spiritual journey when I was at Sandler, which continued into PSA and continues on today. But that really is what unlocks it for the clients that we work with. It's like we have that masculine stuff, right? We have the 6-step process. Well, I can tell you exactly what I think you should say when you should say it. We do real-time coaching in our sales club. We have, Slack channels where clients can message me and voice memo me and I respond. And it's like, like we'll help you sell more. Like I can teach you that all day, every day. And that's awesome. But in the end, I want to help you be you in the process because that's going to unlock everything for you. And that's going to prevent you from burnout. And that's going to help you truly connect with people because everyone wants to be their authentic selves. And so when they see other people being their authentic selves, even if that manifests itself totally differently, it creates a permission structure and it creates an energetic attraction. Right. So if I were talking to you and I saw you be just like, man, authentically Paul, like in your own weirdness and your own
My dad
neuroses and like,
shoes.
Yeah, and just owning it. It's one of those things where like maybe we could end a dinner and I could think like, man, I don't have a lot in common with this person, with Paul on paper. But like there's something about him. Like, I don't know, man. I can't wait till I see him again and talk to him again. Like there's something about him. And I
A-
want that.
It's a really real thing, Chris. I've seen it. People have shared with me that they experienced that with me, and I've
Yeah,
seen it and experienced it with others where I'm just thinking for my purposes, a
sure.
lot of the folks in my network, we live entirely different lives. I'm a
Yeah.
bachelor by design. Majority of people in my net, well, people are like, hey, yeah, sure, right. That's
That's what
intentional.
every bachelor says.
I'm the York County Bruce Wayne with
I
but middle
love it.
class and a fading hairline. That's about
I
it.
love it. I love it.
But no, it's just a lot of folks I work with and associate with in business and life. They have kids that they have different hobbies and interests. But when it comes to growing and being better people, what even if we are different people outside of like certain, networking forms or like when it comes to a transaction, that's a commonality
Yeah.
and that energetic attraction, like you said.
Yeah. And it is because everything's energy, right?
Mhm.
Quantum physics has proven this. Like everything is energy. We are big balls of energy. And so like we feel it. And like if anyone denies it, it's like just ask them, like, you ever been to a Ravens playoff game?
Yeah.
Like you walk in, you feel the energy.
It's literally like lifts you up, like
Yes.
it almost
Yes.
like
Like
in your
you,
chest.
yeah. Or like a concert and the band walks out on stage. Like you feel the humans, we emit energy. And so
It's
the most
almost cult like. It's like a faith
Yes.
in
Yes.
itself.
Yeah. The most powerful energetic wave a human emits, the biggest wave of energy we emit is the energy of authenticity. And the energy of authenticity and what authenticity is having the courage to speak the truth, having the courage to be yourself, not changing who you are because you're afraid. That doesn't mean being selfish, and it doesn't mean being cruel, and it doesn't mean being, I once had someone that probably someone you and I both know who shall remain nameless, who once told me like, man, that shirt doesn't fit you very well at a networking event. And I said,
Really?
why would you say that to me? And he said, well, I'm just being honest. I said, no, you're not. You're being undisciplined in your thoughts. Like you're not being honest. Like you're just being mean,
Yeah.
and it's one of those. So like when you're truly all like, and that's not his authentic self because that was some type of projection, which he needed to make me feel not okay. So he could feel more okay. And so like true authenticity is coming from a place of love and abundance and inclusion. If you have love, abundance, and inclusion, like what would your most loving, your most abundant, your most inclusive version of you show up? Well, you'd show up in all your weirdness.
Yeah.
And right, because that's what makes you you. It's
And
what
you're gonna
makes you
attract
unique.
people who like they're gonna feed off it. And then people who
Yes.
are who are not living their authentic selves, it's just like you're gonna repel them, but that's
Yeah.
okay. That's
Yeah,
okay.
that's okay. It's not their time for you to have a relationship. And so, bringing it full circle to the prompt that you gave me, question you asked 5 or 10 minutes ago about like
No, this
who
is
do
fantastic.
who
This
do we help and how do
discussion.
we help people? We help combine those two things. Because what I noticed is when I was at Sandler, is I knew all the Sandler stuff. I was, I've said it a couple times. I'm an obsessive dude. When I'm in on something, I'm all in. And I was obsessed. I listened to all the tapes. I knew all the stuff. I watched all the program. I knew everything. I had everything memorized, right? I had everything memorized. But when push came to shove in the sales call, I still wasn't asking the hard question. When push came to shove, my hand would still shake when I make the cold call. In the end, it was something inside of me. It was an ignorance of who I was and what was wrong with me that was keeping me from unlocking the genius training I had been given. And that I began to find the more I learned that about myself, the more I get up in front of a room and run a training program and realize that, oh shit, I have half a dozen clients that know this stuff backwards and forwards, and they aren't doing it either. And for the same reason, I wasn't doing it because they had a fear, they had a block, they had a self-limiting belief They were showing up as a watered down, weak version of themselves, and they didn't even know it. And so once you start to unlock that and you combine that type of self-reflection, that authenticity, right? And you start to unlock it. And then you tell people like, and when you get out into the world to do it, this is exactly how you should do it. That's when not only do the results take off on the sales side of things, right? Because I believe in our system. I love it. I think it's very good. Not only does sales take off there, but that's when the person begins to transform. And that's when everything changes.
And I feel like even Chris, talking in the form of like sales and being a salesperson,
Sure.
being a better human being.
Yeah.
At the end of the day.
Yes.
Being a better version for yourself or others.
Yeah.
That's what I'm interpreting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Sales is about helping people. Like
Correct.
Sales is about helping people. And so,
sales is not about making money. Sales is about
Yep.
helping people and serving, more importantly, serving people.
Yeah. Sales is about helping and serving people. And sometimes like helping people for me is giving away 15 minutes of my time to help them with something because they're not really ready for my help.
Yep.
And then other times, this is a true story. Other times, like yesterday, it was talking to a guy and saying, here's the thing. This is the first time I swear to God, this is true. It just happened yesterday. He shall remain nameless. It's the first time I've ever done this. We'll call him Matthew.
Matthew. Okay, great.
We'll call him Matthew. It's not his name. We'll call him Matthew. I told him, I said, Matthew, here's the thing. I'm not hanging up this call until you buy it. And I said, and I'm not saying that because I need you to buy the online course. Like that's not, I'm not going to be able to buy a new house because you bought the online course and you start getting into our sales club. And you're like one guy, like, I mean, that's not going to change.
It's not going to change your world for you and your family.
It's not going to change my world. And I said, I'm not doing it to get the money from you. I'm doing it because you need someone to care enough to sit here and tell you it's time to commit and it's time to rip off the Band-Aid. And that to me was the most loving thing I could do for him in that moment.
Even if he clicked off the call right there.
Yes. But I knew he wouldn't. I knew he needed it because it's so
funny, man. When you get these feelings and you just like say something like that, because like you just know it is gonna hit.
Yeah. Yeah. And one thing that I teach my clients all the time is the best salespeople, the best entrepreneurs, the best parents, the best friends, the best spouses are willing to love someone enough to make them uncomfortable in order to help them.
I had experience with a friend earlier this week talking about a personal relationship. He shall remain nameless. Love the guy to death. He's been hard on me before in the past. So he needed tough love. And I said, you need to remove this person from your life. Was not going to enable him whatsoever in terms of the feedback he reached out to.
Yeah. And it's like, and that, so we will do that with loved ones. We'll do that, especially with like, I don't know what your family dynamics are, but siblings, I don't know if you're an only child or you have siblings.
Got a brother, Matthew. Normally, Chris, when we do the live in studio productions, he's here helping out, but virtually, you just got me today. So
Gotcha. Well, yeah, brothers usually, siblings don't hesitate to give tough love.
Oh, no.
And they don't always do it in the most graceful fashion.
Correct.
But
that's the masculine in us.
Yeah. But what I encourage people to do is like, take that courage, take that conviction and bring it into helping people in sales. And guess what? I may have made Matthew so uncomfortable that he hung up last night, but I was feeling into him. And if I felt like that was the case, I wouldn't have said it the way I said it. I said it the way I said it, not because that's how I say it to everyone, because I never said that to anyone in my life. But that's what he needed to hear because he was so stuck and I can help him. And the first thing I needed to help him do was get unstuck.
Mm-hmm.
And the manifestation of that, getting unstuck, was him committing to buying the online course and getting started working with me and getting into our sales club right there on the spot. Because I knew if I let him go, he wouldn't do it. And he texted me an hour later. Kid you not, we exchanged phone numbers so he could text me and send me voice memos so I can help him. He texted me an hour later last night as I was, doing the dishes.
Uh-huh.
And he said, I'm an hour into the course. My mind is blown right now. Like, I needed this so badly. Thank you so much for making me do it.
Chris, I don't know about for you, and it could be just my ego a little bit, but having had similar experiences, not the conversation, but like having
Sure.
a new client react like that in terms of like them reaffirming their decision to work with you and how excited they are. To me, that just like, ooh, like lights something up in you. It's exciting, that you can
Yeah.
guide
It's
them
everything.
to like the right, decision.
Yeah, it's everything, right? And it's everything. And in that moment, it was also, that specific text was so valuable to me because I really trusted my gut in that moment to speak my truth to him from a place of saying what I believe he needed to hear, not what I needed to hear myself say. And that's scary to do. And it was uncomfortable for me to do. And the fact that within an hour, it was validated. It was like, yes, I need to, sometimes the cobbler's kids have the worst shoes in town.
Yeah.
Like, I need to listen to my own advice often. And that is, speak your truth, show up to help people, tell them what they need to hear because they need to hear it, not because you need to hear yourself say it, and advocate for them, right? Speak to their higher self, the version of them their soul aspires to be. Speak to that one in a loving and encouraging way. And you will find that that's how you really help people. It's how you really help people.
Who's Chris Caldwell authentically? For outside of work, for just top line, would you willing
Yeah,
to
I mean,
share?
yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Like, Chris Caldwell's this personality that you're talking to right now, whatever that means. I think Chris Caldwell is a guy who has really fallen in love with the journey of figuring out who the hell Chris Caldwell is. And that, like, I think my authenticity is in my journey, right? Like, that is it. I joke all the time. Yeah, I've actually posted on LinkedIn and tagged Mike Tisch before, who we both know. And,
Shout out to
we
Tish.
met, and I mean, I remember maybe 5 or 6 years ago, 7 years ago now, I was visiting an insight group, and he said, "Chris, what are your blind spots?" And I said, "I don't think I have any. I think I figured them all out."
And he's probably like, nah. Who the hell's this guy?
Well, I'm sure he was thinking all kinds of things, right?
Yeah.
But it's it's, I think that who am I? I'm someone who's trying really, really hard to be as authentic as I can, and recognizing that sometimes I do and sometimes I don't. And every time I think I've conquered a fear or an insecurity or a neuroses, I just end up moving myself into a situation in which it appears all over again and just manifests a little differently.
It's life.
And so I'm someone who's working on accepting all of those and integrating them even more effectively. And yeah, and I'm just like, I think I'm a teacher at heart. I think that's what I was put on this earth to do, was to teach. And I don't know exactly from one day to the next what I'll be teaching. But in order to be a teacher, you have to be a student.
Well, you personally taught me a lot today. Stuff that is full circle. It's just like stuff that I knew. And it's like you literally were a reminder for me. And I hope for some viewers once this releases in a few weeks, Chris. So
Yeah.
thank you for that. And I was going to ask way more technical sales questions, but the conversation we had today, I think it's a lot of people need to hear more
Cool.
than like, what's the best approach to do this? What's the best approach to do that? I kind of
Sure.
just threw that away right now. To be honest with you, because this is more
That
important.
that happens, man. That's what authentic present conversations are about.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
I'm not hung up on asking you anything else in particular, but I will ask you one last question. Well, two.
Okay.
One, always like to ask folks, like, oh, give me a fun fact when we do like a little intake form process,
Sure.
before our guest comes on. You drive a golf cart around day to day. That's pretty badass. Let's be real.
Yeah, I do, man. 3 years, 2.5 years ago, however long ago, we moved out to Southern California.
Mhm.
And before moving out, we had to drive across country. And so we had two cars and we sold one of them. And so we drove out here in one. And yeah, you can drive golf carts everywhere here. So we have classic, I'm a father of three, so we have a minivan. And then
What
we have a
kind of
golf cart.
minivan?
Yeah. And
What
what?
what kind of minivan?
Honda Odyssey. Honda Odyssey.
So
Um,
I drove a minivan down on a trip with a couple buddies to Myrtle Beach a few years back. I was like the main driver. People like joke about like guys driving minivans. I kind of like it. I'm like,
Minivans are awesome.
if and when I have kids, like I will be the minivan dad. That is, I don't
Yeah,
care.
like they're great, man. I love them
It was
for a
such a
variety of reasons.
smooth like driving experience.
Yeah, yeah, but day to day, yeah, right here in San Clemente, it's like a small beach town, and so we drive our golf cart around it. We have a 6-seater golf cart, and we just, we're a family of five, so we drive our golf cart pretty much everywhere. We can get to the doctor's office, to the kids' school, to the grocery store, to the beach, to the pier. We can get anywhere we need to go in our golf cart. It's pretty
That's
awesome.
awesome.
Yeah, it is.
So I want to give you the floor now, just to wrap this up today. I really enjoy this. I wish almost we were in person because I feel like it'd be one of those like 3 hour long podcasts. But I want to be
Yeah, well, probably
respectful
would be.
of your time, just because I told you normally like a 30-40 minute format, and we're right on
Sure.
the cusp of that.
Mhm.
Um, Anything you want to share for folks out there,
Yeah,
either sole entrepreneurs or business owners with 50 sales people.
sure. Yeah, absolutely. I think that, um, sales doesn't need to be as hard as it is. And that really is true for all the roles we play in our life. So if you're a sales leader or a company owner and you have a sales team that doesn't have like a systematized process and everybody's doing things a little bit differently and like quotas hit and then not hit and there's inconsistency there, like my team and I can really help, not just in implementing those processes, but help understanding why it's not working. And if you're that individual salesperson who wants to level up your sales game and wants to transform yourself, or if you're a small business owner who recognizes that like the moment you hang up the shingle, you are no longer, using you as an example, Paul, like the moment you create your own business, you're not a marketing expert. You're a salesperson because you can't give anyone marketing advice that isn't a client. It's like the old, my father and father-in-law are both attorneys. And they both joke, like, never in law school did they teach us how to get clients. Like we
Yeah,
graduated with
it's
all the,
crazy to think, but that's
isn't
so
that
true
crazy
though.
to think?
It's
Yeah.
all like law.
Yeah. It's
It's all the
all law.
books.
And then you get hired by a law firm and they're like, oh, by the way, your new business quota is 400,000 in billable hours this
Yeah,
year.
we'll help you do this, but you need to do the
Yeah. And it's
400,000.
like, oh, shoot. And then they're like, join the Optimist Club, join the Knights of Columbus, join,
And then you're like, oh,
join the church group. Like, and just like they have no idea what to do. And that's no different for a life coach, a marketing executive, a CRM consultant, it doesn't matter. Like you hang your shingle, you're a salesperson first. And then then you can help people. The better you get at selling, the more people you can help. The more people you can help, the more you help yourself, the more you help your family, the more you help your business. So for an individual salesperson or, a small business owner, it's like we can help. We can really, really help if you're ready to be helped. And, if you go to our website, sellersyouare.com, we have, our flagship 8-week accelerator program. We have the accelerator online program. We have the ongoing community where we meet every week to work on the skills and to role play and reinforce it,
that's
and have a
awesome.
Slack channel and have coaching. And like that's in our sales club. And then we just recently launched a 4-week course that kicks off in June called Empowered Selling 101. And it's just 1 hour a week for 4 weeks. It's like a live training, 1 hour a week for 4 weeks. It just like a small mini course. And you can find that right on our website, right at the top. There's a banner right at the top, kicks off June 18th. I know this probably dropping maybe around that time or right before, but
We can
that's
tee it
for,
up that way for you.
Yeah, I appreciate it. That's for small business owners, or for individual salespeople who just want to, like, they know something's missing and they just want to step more powerfully into their role as a sales professional. And so this is a brand new mini course that we're launching, cohort that we're launching, and this is probably a regular thing we'll do probably every other month or so, because it's needed. It's really needed out there.
Well, Chris, I needed this conversation today. Thank you for this. I'm keeping it real.
Yeah, man. Yeah,
Well,
I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to keep it real.
we're gonna have to do this in person at some point. Either me being on the West Coast popping over, or if you're visiting up here at some point.
Sounds good. All my family's in the Mid-Atlantic. So next time I'm in town, and I have time, I'll give you a shout.
Awesome. Well, Chris, thank you so much, and thank you for everyone for tuning in today.
Awesome. Thanks, Paul.